Hello, welcome to Jeff's channel in the new year. First, I'd like to thank my subscribers, a currently small but very elite group. Thanks so much for your support, and I promise that in 2026, I'll try my best to be much more productive. And please stick to my channel for folklores, mysteries, anime, manga, films, and much more. If you have been here before, you will know this channel used to explore Japanese yokai and urban legends that passed on through generations. I've always been fascinated by how these legends shape fear and mystery, and ever since I was a kid, there has been one anime that brought all of that together for me. The Kindaichi Case Files is one of my favorite detective anime of all time. Although this series is pretty niche in the US, especially compared to the popular ones such as Detective Conan, I still think most of the cases in this series feature some of the strongest plots, schemes, and motives out there, easily comparable to those classics from the golden age of the detective novels. No cap, this anime sparked my life with mysteries in the first place. Another thing that makes it special to me is that the cases are often rooted in yokai, folklore, and urban legends, making them gripping and thrilling to watch, especially for a mythology lover like me. So, in the new year, I'll be introducing and breaking down Kindaichi cases that I find most interesting or impressive. And as far as I know, this channel might be the first, and maybe the only English channel to really go through the young Kindaichi cases on YouTube. So if you also love mysteries, twisted logic, and the darker side of the folklore, you are in the right place. Today I'll bring you the very first Kindaichi case, one rooted in schoolyard ghost stories, abandoned classrooms, and a legend that was never meant to be solved. Let's dive into the School 7 mysteries. My name is Hajime Kindaichi. You can call me Hatch for short. I mean everyone an ordinary 17-year-old boy studying in feudal high school. Except my grandfather was the famous detective Kosuke Kindaichi. You might have read about those bizarre cases he solved decades ago. But it was all water under the bridge now. In the eyes of most of my classmates and teachers, I'm merely a lazy and motivated student with a mediocre GPA. Only a few people don't see me as a stupid brat. Among them is Miyuki Nanase, my neighbor girl whom I grew up with. While others don't understand why a model student like her could be the best friend of a slacker like me, she always says that she could see my great intelligence behind this sloppy appearance, and she is even willing to help me with my homework regularly. But today was an exception. After having done so many times for me, she insisted that I should do my homework myself so I could really learn. Fortunately, another volunteer came to my aid. It was Ruby Sebastian, my senior and president of the school's mystery research club. She said she could also see my brain strength, so she would like to take care of my homework under one condition, that I would solve a critical puzzle for her. Through Ruby's introduction, Miyuki and I met members of the mystery research club. Rei Saki, a shutterbug who would sleep with his camera. Taden Onio, a quiet and timid boy. Talia Taylor, a germophobic girl who wore surgical gloves all the time. Mark Maxwell, an amateur detective novel writer and a haughty jerk. And Mr. Justin Matley, our physics teacher and the advisor of the club. Well, look at all these strange people we have here. If they want to study strange things, all they need is just a mirror, I guess. Ruby told me that they were working on a challenging and a dangerous project, the School 7 Mysteries. I have heard those rumors too, like a girl was found dead, hanging from the ceiling of the biology lab in the old school building, and when lights turned on, the body suddenly vanished without a trace. It was also said that whoever solving these mysteries would be killed by a demon known as the Afterschool Magician. But these were just ghost stories and I have never taken them seriously. But Ruby said it was not that simple. Recently the headmaster had decided to tear down the old school building, and he soon received an anonymous threatening letter, asking him to stop the demolition, or the curse of the 7 mysteries would come true and the Afterschool Magician would be resurrected. Ruby wanted to find out who was behind this, but Mr. Matley warned her to be prudent, because a student trying to sort out the riddle previously ended up disappearing. But Ruby had made up her mind, now knowing this decision eventually costed her life. She went to the abandoned biology lab in the evening, where she unexpectedly encountered a small earthquake. In shock, she discovered the gruesome secret of the old school building. She immediately called me, asking me to join her. She was too excited to notice that the shadow had approached from the darkness behind. By the time Miyuki and I came to the old building, Ruby was nowhere to be found. The whole building was weirdly silent, and there was an eerie message left on the computer screen. Whoever opens the 7th gate would become the human sacrifice in the ceremony of death. Signed, the Afterschool Magician. Before long, Tayden, Tally, and Ray had all arrived. They all received an anonymous call saying that the ceremony of death would be held at 10 p.m. We informed the security guard, Mr. Ryan Talon, and he agreed to look for Ruby with me. We walked down the corridor in the new school building, and suddenly saw a strange candlelight from the old building. It was the abandoned biology lab, but there was not supposed to be anyone there, especially at this time. We came closer and saw a horrific scene through the window. Ruby was hanging from the ceiling, and beside her there was a creepy guy in a black cloak, holding a candle in his hand. He turned around, revealing his bulging eyes, sharp teeth, and a monstrous face before the lab door was slammed close. Without hesitation, we rushed towards the old building and broke down the locked door with the help of Miyuki, Ray, Mark, and Mr. Matley, who also came from the new building. The weirdest thing happened. The lab was completely empty now. Ruby, the candle, and the freak, everything we saw a few seconds ago was gone. I immediately checked the door and the windows. They were all locked before we arrived, which means whoever inside previously had no way to escape. Do you think this was exactly the same as the school legend described? What Ray said sent shivers down our spines. Miyuki tried to comfort me, saying it might just be a prank Ruby played on us, like a test of courage. But what we learned next day shattered all our best wishes. Ruby died, without a doubt. Her body hung from the ceiling of the abandoned biology lab, like a lifeless puppet. I'll solve this case at all costs. Whoever did this will pay. I swear by the name of my grandfather Kosuke, the greatest detective who ever lived. Inspector Isaac Kimochi from Tokyo Police Department was sent here to take charge of the case. He is my old acquaintance who knew my ability to deduce information well. He told me that Ruby was murdered between 9 and 10 last night, which means we all saw the scene of death. And I told him about how Ruby and her murderer disappeared within seconds. Mark looked at us arrogantly, saying that it was simple. The culprit killed Ruby in this very room. He then tied a fishing line to the window bolt and put the other end of the line through the chimney hole. Before we burst in, he jumped out of the window with Ruby's body and pulled the fishing line, so he could lock the window from inside while he was outside. Isaac nodded, but I was not quite convinced. It was doable, of course, but it didn't really make sense. Why all the efforts to make a locked room mystery? Merely because the murderer wanted the whole thing to look like the school legend? And most importantly, yesterday Ruby showed us a journal published by the club and a floppy disk with the detailed information about the school's mysteries. These were crucial clues, but they were all missing from the crime scene now. An outsider wouldn't bother taking them away. It had to be someone in the club. Isaac also told me what Matthew said earlier was true. A student named Chloe Anderson disappeared 10 years ago, in the middle of her investigation of the school's mysteries. Before I could figure it out, another murder took place. Taylor was found dead in an old printing room. His body was covered with blood-stained paper sheets, clenching an old key in his hand. Mr. Talon, the security guard, confirmed that it was a long-lost key to the abandoned biology lab where Ruby died. Miyuki said that was the second mystery, the spooky printing room. It was a room that long ago, a student accidentally cut up her hand while using the paper cutter. From then, people occasionally saw the severed hand crawling around the old printing room, leaving bloody handprints. But Isaac told us it was not blood, merely red paint. And that was weird. Taylor was beaten to death, but we didn't see much blood, meaning that he might have been killed elsewhere. I turned to the computer, soon found blood stains on the keyboard, and Ruby's floppy disk that was already broken. It was obvious. Tatum took the floppy disk, planned to open it and solve the mystery. The cop attacked him from behind and destroyed the floppy. Security guard, Mr. Talon, waited for me in the corridor, giving me the journal published by the Mystery Research Club. In the journal, there was a report written by Chloe Anderson, the student disappearing 10 years ago. She wrote that the old school building originally belonged to a pharmaceutical company and was donated to Feudal High School 30 years ago. We also found a code in the journal. Ruby must have found something that night, but was killed shortly after she left the code for me. The cop destroyed the floppy, but luckily he didn't see the code. I decided to ask Isaac about the history of the pharmaceutical company, but Miyuki insisted on going back to the old building first to retrieve the handkerchief I gave her. It was the only thing I had ever given her since our childhood, and she valued that very much. After talking to Isaac, I realized Miyuki still didn't come back. I dashed to the old building, only to find some fresh blood on the floor. No, that can't be good. I immediately asked Ray what the third mystery was. He told me it was the bloody fountain. And sure enough, I found Miyuki near the fountain. She suffered a hard blow to the back of her head and fell into coma. After sending her to the hospital, I sat alone outside the emergency room, unable to stop blaming myself. Why did I just come with her to the old building? And because I was too obsessed with the mystery, I kept putting friends around me in danger. First Ruby, and now Miyuki. Maybe I should just quit. Perhaps the god had read my mind. Miyuki miraculously recovered the next day. The first thing she said when she woke up is that she didn't see the attacker. And she said she always had faith in me.
はじめちゃん、負けないで。新しい犠牲者が出る前に一刻も早く犯人を捕まえて。それができるのははじめちゃんだけなのよ。
Miyuki's encouragement made me bounce back from sadness. She also told me when she was attacked, she was about to take off a poster of Mark because she didn't like his haughty manner. As we spoke, the sun shone through directly into the ward. I stood up to draw the curtains. Seeing the sunlight reflecting from the building across the street, it was like a light had flicked on in my brain. I looked at the map of the old building, suddenly figured out how the first murder was committed. I went to the old building and found the poster Miyuki talked about. Upon removing it, the darkest secret of the school revealed itself in front of me. This is what it's all about. All the pieces fit. Yes, the whole case and the legends behind it were finally solved. The Afterschool Magician. I know who it is. I called Isaac and asked him to gather all people involved in the new building. In full view of everyone, I successfully reenacted the scene when Ruby was murdered. In fact, it was a simple theory of reflection. Ruby and her murderer were not in the biology lab when we saw them. Instead, they were in the physics lab. The biology lab was directly visible from the new building, while the physics lab was not. And the so-called ceremony of death was actually held in the physics lab. The culprit placed a large mirror diagonally in the corridor, so the scene from the physics lab could be reflected into our eyes as it were from the biology lab. And certainly, we found everything was gone after we broke into the biology lab, because they had never been there in the first place. The murderer then snuck out of the physics lab and joined us from behind without raising any suspicion. And after we went home, he moved Ruby's body into the biology lab, set up the fake crime scene, and escaped through the window. Yes, the last person arriving at the biology lab in the old building that night, our physics teacher, Mr. Madley. You are the after-school magician. Ray did not leave, saying that the key to the biology lab was in Tatum's hand when he was killed, meaning that instead of using the mirror, the murderer might have also used the key to get into the biology lab and hang Ruby's body there. I told him that was exactly what Mr. Madley wanted us to believe. But if my guess is correct, the key will not work because the abandoned biology lab had never been opened for a decade. Mark attempted to unlock the door with the key, but he ended up confirming my guess, that the lock was long rusted and stuck. Mr. Madley still tried to deny, saying that he had no motive to kill his students. Yes, you did, I replied. Just as Isaac had found out from the police department, 30 years ago, the old school building belonged to a big pharmaceutical company. The company hired 6 volunteers for a drug trial. Unfortunately, the experiment failed and all 6 people died. To conceal the scandal, the company embedded the volunteers' bodies in several places around the building. Before they donated the building to Feudal High School, they planted a spy here working as a faculty member, and that was you. You spread 6 horror stories about the old building to prevent teachers and students from getting close to the locations of the bodies. And 10 years ago, a student went missing during her investigation of the old building. It was reasonable to believe that you killed her because she discovered the truth. You hid her body the same way you hid the other 6, and invented another ghost story to drive people away from where she was buried, making total 7 mysteries in the school. Of course, you are also the one threatening the headmaster against the demolition of the old building. And I remember there was a minor earthquake in the night when Ruby died. The wall must have cracked and revealed something inside to her, so you strangled her to keep her quiet. After knowing Tatum got a floppy disk, you silenced him too and destroyed the floppy. But you didn't know that the Ruby also left a code in the club journal. The code was actually quite simple. Just type the kanji and the hiragana using a romanized keyboard, and we'll get a sentence. There are bones hidden in the wall. Miyuki was attacked when she attempted to remove this poster, which means... You couldn't repair the large hole in the wall after the earthquake, so you just covered it with a poster. And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Matley, this is Chloe Anderson, the girl you murdered 10 years ago. Mr. Matley finally confessed, saying it was an accident. Chloe discovered a secret and planned to tell on him. During their arguments, he accidentally pushed her off the stairs and she fell to her death. Before he had done speaking, Mr. Talon stabbed him through the chest with a pair of scissors. It turned out that Ryan Talon was actually Ryan Anderson, Chloe's father. 10 years, he had worked in this school as a security guard to look for Chloe. But he didn't know that his daughter has been close at hand all the time. Mr. Matley eventually succumbed to his wound. Before drawing his last breath, he sobbed out how he wished to be an ordinary teacher and live a peaceful life. But that could never happen. All his former bosses and colleagues had long died, and he was imprisoned for life in this old building, guarding their dark past. And we could do nothing but stand there, beholding the tragic end of the Afterschool Magician. Time flew fast. Before long, the remains of all victims were resumed and properly reburied, and the old school building was demolished as planned. It also turned out that Mark had never been as smart as he said he was. He hired Talia as the ghostwriter of his novel, and the door of the biology lab wasn't really stuck. I just put chewing gum in the keyhole, tricking the culprit to confess, and he fell for it. But none of this is important now. Everything seems back to normal. I solved the school's mysteries as you wished, Ruby. But do you know, the ironic thing is, there has never been a monstrous demon behind all this. Only a pathetic coward, desperately hiding the evil past he dare not face. The School's 7 Mysteries is the very first case in the Kindaichi Case Files anime, and honestly, it traumatized me the best possible way. I was about 9 years old when I first watched it, and when that human skeleton was revealed inside the wall, yeah, I did not sleep that night. Even now, years later, it remains one of my favorite cases. Though revisiting as an adult, I start noticing the little gags hidden between the horror. For example, what kind of 60-year-old edgelord calls himself the Afterschool Magician? Well, maybe just because the cycle in the school wouldn't have the same ring to it.
Why don't you just pick a common name like a normal person?
However, a dead body hidden in the wall is a classical trope in crime and horror. And it's not just a fiction. Real-life cases of bodies concealed behind the wall surface every few years. Which leads to a disturbing thought. When you move into a pre-owned house, there's a possibility that some murdered relatives of the previous owners do share the bedroom with you without your knowing.
That'd be ridiculous.
Alright, let's return to this anime. Our protagonist, Hajime Kindaichi, is depicted to be the grandson of Kosuke Kindaichi, a fictional detective created by the famous Japanese mystery novelist Seishi Yokomizo. It was rumored the Yokomizo family disapproved of this in the beginning, but finally came to an agreement with the manga writing group, which allowed Kosuke to have a grandson 11 years after his creator passed away. And after going through Hajime's stories, we'll also take time to explore the brilliant and often dark mysteries solved by his grandpa. So again, if you enjoy deep dives into those mystery anime, hit subscribe. I'll be breaking down every case in detail, and you're the reason this channel continues. Thanks for watching, and next Kindaichi Case is coming soon.